fine work. Of course, his book covers more than just that. It's now, of course, still in print, but he also has a free version up on the web at his website. The new book, Obama, the Postmodern Coup, is a very interesting book, and I certainly respect Webster Griffin Tarpley's perspective and view on that, and I think it's important to read this book. That's why we're offering it. Almost out of print. A second edition is about to come out, but we have just a few hundred of these. I believe its publisher's now sold out. We have some of the only copies of this at Infowars.com. Obama, the Postmodern Coup, Webster Griffin Tarpley. That said, I want to not just discuss Barack Obama's background the time we have. We're going to do that, but I suggest you get the book. But also, at a certain point, it becomes academic. I mean, Hillary represents the exact same people. John McCain now has Zbigniew Brzezinski's son advising it on foreign policy. That was in the Associated Press. We got a lot of calls about that. Thank listeners for pointing it out. Now, at least on the surface, they have kicked Zbigniew Brzezinski off of his foreign policy advisory panel, Barack Obama's, but it doesn't matter. The whole same crew, as Tarpley points out, that wants to attack Russia, that wants to attack other countries in Central Asia, that wants to move nuclear weapons back into Europe and point them at the Russians. I mean, everything he's saying is true. My only difference is perspective on this. It almost lends credibility to the whole election process when you're talking about Barack Obama versus Hillary, and now it's Barack Obama and versus John McCain. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion. It's like a Don King fight where he owns both the fighters, and you know it's going to be rigged either way. And then you've got all these neocons on Fox saying, oh, Israel is going to attack before the election to get John McCain elected. I don't know if that's the case. I want to get Tarpley's take on that. Tarpley is quite a geopolitical expert. His research is very good. I constantly study and read and research and find that Tarpley's information is, again, very accurate. I only differ with you, Webster, on the inferences you draw on I mean, here's an example. 2 years ago, I was saying we weren't going to attack Iran then. You were saying guaranteed with dates. And so I think we can argue about how we analyze that data and what we come up with. And so I think you get the points I'm making here, Webster.
Yes, Alex. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me. Thank you for stocking my book. And I'm delighted to have this discussion. I would say, first of all, we have to look at ourselves like a naval battle. We're confronting a hostile fleet, and you've got to concentrate your fire on the flagship of the hostile fleet rather than just scattering fire in every direction. And I think if you turn on the television for 10 minutes, there is no doubt that Obama is the candidate favored by the controlled corporate media.
Yes, he is anointed. It is an endless worship fest, and I watched him in Europe quite a bit over the weekend on C-SPAN raw footage. He is bumbling. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I know a lot of high school seniors in government class that could speak more eloquently than him, and that is upsetting to me.
You're exactly right. But the choice that's being made is, of course, being made by Wall Street, and it's being made by our old friends, the Trilateral, Rockefeller, Bilderberger, Council on Foreign Relations, Rand Corporation, Chicago Schools, Skull and Bones, Ford Foundation, you name it. They have all lined up behind Obama in a way that is unprecedented. You've got a unified oligarchical front now around Obama. McCain is barely mentioned. Hillary Clinton was swept aside. Others swept aside.
An example is McCain lands in New Hampshire, and there's one reporter and one photographer. Everywhere Obama goes, thousands.
Now, and you're exactly right. And there's a reason for this, though. Why do they support Obama? What's the reason? It is because he is the puppet who is most puppet.
He's like Bush, who they know they can fully control.
Yes, maybe even more so than Bush. He's somebody who's been raised literally up out of nothing by these trilateral people. My personal hypothesis is that Obama was recruited by Zbigniew Brzezinski at Columbia University between 1981 and 1983. They had just finished up with Carter. You'll remember that Zbigniew Brzezinski and Volcker ran the catastrophic Carter administration.
And then pinned it all on him when he was well-meaning.
Yes, and that's also an aspect of why they've chosen Obama, because Obama is not well-meaning. Obama is a boiling cauldron of hate. But back there in Colombia in 81 to 83, they were looking around for a puppet, a Manchurian candidate, assets, and of course they had a broad choice. Didn't have to be just Obama. They picked others to deploy into a political upsurge in this country approximately now, 2008, 2010, 2020. And Obama was one of the political properties that they picked up. So they have been grooming him and indoctrinating him.
By the way, I'm backing you up. Dr. Dennis Cuddy has done a whole book on all these famous people. When they're in college, they'll be in the lunch line, and David Rockefeller will be there, or Zbigniew Brzezinski will be there, or Henry Kissinger. They go pick who they want.
And that, I think, that is my thesis, is that that's what happened with Obama, and therefore all the wonderful coincidences and magic events of his life are guided by that fine trilateral hand behind the scenes. But now ultimately, why do they need him today? Basically two things. The entire phase of Islamofascism, war on terror, post 9/11, I believe is exhausted. I think they're gone into a new phase.
The fake environmental, Malthusian, the Russians are a threat.
Yes, it's Russia, China, Malthusian, Unabomber kind of stuff, but then it's also human rights, humanitarian concerns, and left cover. We're going from a phase of right-wing cover imperialism to a phase of left-wing cover imperialism. This is why so many of our left liberal friends have not been able to understand this, because they regard all of this as progress. They think that it's something going in the right direction. And, of course, it's not.
By the way, the Romans would do this in their different protectorates and new places they'd taken over. They would put a thug in for 5-10 years to murder, kill, stab. Then they would publicly flog him, execute him, apologize, and then rise up somebody from that local area in Germania or Gaul or there in areas of Austria, or it could be in more Asian areas. And then they would raise up a local who on the surface would act like he was friendly to the people, but who would actually intensify taxation and control.
Excellent. And in the case of Brzezinski, you can say this is the Hegelian dialectic. This is one of those cases where you can actually see the Hegelian dialectic at work. Brzezinski's teacher is a guy called Carl Friedrichs. And
so he has a degree in Hegelian dialectic.
Yes, and Friedrichs is a historian. He wrote The Age of the Baroque. He's a historian of the 30 Years' War.
As a professor of the Hegelian dialectic.
Yeah, and Brzezinski is a student at McGill University with this guy and of course, with others. And essentially what they've said is you can't keep going with the right-wing stuff. You can't do Bush-Cheney neocons. Right now here in Washington, Bush-Cheney neocons are finished. They're out. They have no influence. They're a laughingstock. They're going to jail. They're done. And their policies are out, too, and we could go through that in some detail. But the idea is now, what's the new policy? The Brzezinski argument is, stop wasting time in the Middle East. Stop mucking around in the Persian Gulf. Remember that on a world scale, the main opposition to U.S. imperialism is Russia and China. It's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. You smash those, you've guaranteed U.S.-British world domination for another century, and so get busy doing that. And forget the attack on Iran. I believe there will be no attack on Iran. There have been ultimatums delivered to the Israelis.
Well, why did you previously believe that there would be?
I think we came very close. And the closest we came was last August with the rogue B-52. There was an attempt by the Cheney gang last August to actually hijack a B-52 intercontinental bomber. They flew it from North Dakota to Louisiana. They were going to fly that to the Middle East.
And it had 6 cruise missiles on it, loaded with nukes.
And this was going to take part in the attack on Israel that took place on September 6th. However, it was stopped on the ground, and as that question went up the chain of command and began to interest the intelligence agencies, the word came down, no, 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 no. And that, I believe, that was the last gasp for Bush and Cheney.
And then we see a string of reports by the CIA and Defense Intelligence saying it's all lies, Iran's not a threat. But you're saying you don't think Israel's going to wild card? Because they're certainly setting up the propaganda front now.
I think a lot of that is disinformation. The attack that you have to worry about that's going on right now, there's another country 3 times bigger than Iran with nuclear weapons that is being attacked.
Pakistan.
It's Pakistan, and I believe there will be a U.S., NATO, and Afghan land invasion of northwest Pakistan. Now, the difference, though, is there's a different...
And they've been they've been preparing the ground on that.
The difference is that now the target list is how do you weaken Russia, how do you weaken China, how do you strip away Chinese allies and Chinese strategic partners. That means Pakistan is at the top of the list, not for this idiotic Al-Qaeda bin Laden fairy tale that we've already refuted and you've refuted so many times. But now it's the question.
Yeah, that's just a rubric boogeyman cover. I agree.
But the real reason is that Pakistan is an ally of China, and that's what they've got to go after. The goal of the operations out of Afghanistan right now...
Chinese encirclement.
Yeah, it's to encircle China by destroying Pakistan. In other words, by dividing Pakistan into 4, 5, 6 countries, be it Baluchistan, Pashtunistan, Waziristan, Sindh, or whatever you have. They're going to shatter Pakistan.
Same thing in Iraq. They want to break it in 3 parts. That's why they won't let Maliki kick them out. Do you agree with that?
Yes, that's the Bernard Lewis plan, and that, of course, goes on and on. But now the Bernard Lewis plan is... Stay there.
Yeah, the great game, balkanization. Webster will be right back in about 4 minutes. We're going to cover a host of issues with our guest. Stay with us. He's the author of The Obama Postmodern Coup.